There's a very thin line between self-confidence and self-delusion. And in a sport like boxing, it's sometimes difficult to distinguish between the two. In fact, very often the two things go hand in hand. You need a tremendous amount of confidence to be able to make it to the top in boxing and stay there. If you doubt yourself, if you lack that inner self-belief, then you're not going to perform to the best of your ability. And if you don't perform to the best of your ability, it actually puts you in more danger. This is a combat sport. This is a sport where it's basically, in a metaphorical sense, but sometimes in a literal sense, do or die, dog eat dog. So you need that confidence to perform to the best of your ability. It actually makes things safer for you. But when that confidence bubbles over and spills over and becomes self-delusion, that's when you can actually find yourself in trouble, and that's when you can actually get hurt. Self-delusion is the enemy. Confidence is your friend, but self-delusion is the enemy. But yet it's sometimes difficult to distinguish between the two, and especially for fighters themselves. Fighters themselves very often can't distinguish between confidence and delusion. And there are many that are actually the top fighters who are tremendously confident. In fact, all the top fighters are tremendously confident, but they're sometimes even confident to the point of delusion. And some of them have come unstuck because of that. If you look at Lennox Lewis, when he fought Hasim Bratman and Oliver McCall, it was overconfidence. It was that sense that he almost felt invulnerable. That was his undoing. Carl Froch, in the first George Groves fight, he was so confident, he just literally felt that he could walk through George Groves. And he didn't take him seriously enough. That was delusion right there. And you've got obviously much more extreme examples. People like Audley Harrison, people like maybe Roy Jones, Evander Holyfield late on in his career. And Evander Holyfield is someone that I've mentioned before regarding this issue, because you can track his career all the way through from the amateurs. And he was someone who everyone doubted Holyfield when he was an amateur. He was going in there with people, other fighters who were heavily favored over him, but yet he had the confidence to not believe the naysayers. People were saying, you're going to get knocked out by this guy, knocked out by that guy. He's too strong. He's too big a puncher for you. And Holyfield said, to hell with that. I'm going to go in and do my thing. And he did. And the same thing carried on when he was a professional. People said, you can't be heavyweight champion. These guys are too big. You're not a real heavyweight. He ignored everyone and he went ahead and did it. So that confidence, that ignorance, really, that ability to block out what everyone else says and not listen to other people is what made him successful. But that very thing that made him successful was also the thing that could have put his health at risk late on in his career, because it was obvious to everyone outside the ring that he was finished towards the end of his career. But he made his career. All the success he had in his career was based off not listening to us, not listening to the critics. So once he got late on in his career, why should he then, in his own mind, he's thinking, why should I now start listening to critics? Because they were wrong back then. So in his mind, he thinks they're wrong now. This is the mind of many fighters. Like I mentioned before, Audley Harrison is another one. So there's a thin line between self-confidence and self-delusion. And George Groves, I think, is going to be someone who we have to keep an eye on in this regard. He wants a rematch with Carl Froch. Now, Carl Froch was ringside for George Groves' last fight. And like I say, Carl Froch can be a deluded person himself. In fact, he is very deluded, very confident, very good fighter, very tough, but definitely deluded in many ways. And he said one thing which I think is a demonstration of that delusion is when Carl Froch said, I don't think George Groves really wants the rematch. He's just saying it. George, but just a few seconds before that, he said, you have to admire George Groves' confidence, because George Groves obviously called him out after the fight. He said, you have to admire his confidence. He's a very confident kid. The knockout loss that he suffered to me hasn't really seemed to have affected his confidence at all. He's a very confident kid. But then a few seconds later, he says, I don't think he really wants the rematch. So Me personally, I think that George Groves really does want the rematch. He's serious. And if you look back to when George Groves and Carl Froch sparred, because there was this infamous sparring session, I believe George Groves was still an amateur, or certainly in the early stages of his professional career. And apparently Carl Froch dropped Groves heavily or knocked him out. There's conflicting reports, but he certainly dropped him at least. That didn't dent George Groves' confidence. He said he came back a couple weeks later or a week later and he sparred Froch again and put it on him, or at least more than held his own. I mean, Froch didn't deny that they sparred again. He didn't deny that George Groves has held his own. So that shows you Groves' confidence level. The fact that he was dropped in one spar didn't dent his confidence to come back and fight and spar Froch again and, fight with confidence. And I think it's the same thing with the professional situation. I don't think that this knockout loss that Groves suffered to Carl Froch, it has dented Groves' confidence in beating Froch at all. Right? I mean, maybe slightly, but not enough to make it a major factor should they fight again. Groves is one of them kind of guys who, and I knew a few guys like this, a couple guys like this in my life, especially in school. The kind of people who, you'd have a fight or they'd be pissing you off. You'd have a fight, you beat them up, and then they'd come back and do the same shit that they did last time. The thing that made you get in a fight with them in the first place. There are certain people that just have this personality where it don't matter how much you beat them, they're still going to come back and try it again. Right? And George Groves seems to be one of these kind of guys. And like I say, that can be a blessing. It can be a gift, but it can also be a curse. Because self-confidence can easily spill over into self-delusion. What's your opinion on George Groves? Do you think that this confidence that he has, let's say that he goes on to win a world title, all right, hypothetically, I know a lot of people think he won't, but let's say that he went on to win a world title and they made another Froch fight. Most people are going to be picking Froch. Froch has won 2 of their fights, but I think Kugan Cassius and Eddie Hearn were talking about this, and they were saying that there was something, even to them, there was something about the whole situation that, whereby they would actually not mind seeing a third fight between Froch and Groves. Even though Froch has won 2 of them, there's no real reason at the moment for a third fight. I think the reason why they would like to see a third fight between Froch and Groves is because, like I say, that knockout loss hasn't destroyed George Groves' confidence. He's still a tremendously confident kid, even after getting wiped out like that. The way that he was by that right hand, it just wiped him out. He hasn't lost any confidence, this kid. It's incredible. And like I say, that confidence, if applied the right way, with the right tactics and the right opponents, can take him a long way. But is he deluded in thinking that he can beat Carl Froch? That's the question I'm really getting at. Is he deluded? Is that delusion? Is that delusion? I mean, he did well in the first fight. Let's not forget that no one has ever done what he did to Carl Froch in that first fight. No one else has ever done that to Froch. Never. On Froch's worst nights, no one has ever done what George Groves did to him. Hurt him like that and pushed him back and bullied him like that in the first few rounds of that fight. No one's ever done that to Froch before. So we have to give Groves credit for being able to do that. Even in the second fight, it was a much more technical fight, much more cagey. It was still competitive. Some people say, Froch easily won all the rounds. I mean, that's bullshit. Okay, it was a competitive nip and tuck fight up until the ending. In fact, George Groves was actually coming on. He was actually starting to have more success towards the end until that knockout punch landed. So he's been in there in 2 fights with Froch and been very competitive. Is he deluded in thinking that he could beat Froch? And is he in danger? Is he endangering his health with the way that he's thinking? Because he might just get his wish. If he goes and wins a world title, he might just get that third fight with Carl Froch. Personally, I think based on his performance in the first 2 fights, I think the confidence that he has of beating Froch is warranted. I'm not saying that he's going to beat Froch if they fight a third time, but what I'm saying is it's not completely deluded of him to believe that he can beat Froch based on the success that he had in those 2 fights. It's not completely deluded of him. He will definitely have learned things from those 2 fights. And in his head, he'll think, okay, I can put together a strategy to beat him the 3rd time. 3rd time lucky, you know? So that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think about the whole topic in general, not just Groves, but the topic in general in terms of self-belief and self-delusion. Drop your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.